All right, now that things have calmed down, let's discuss Semyon Varlamov. So people who might be looking at yesterday, and I've seen comments like, Shannon, why didn't you do a video on this? Why didn't you do a video on this? I did 14 videos yesterday. So I did videos on the ones that I felt that, I need to talk about this right now. And then I wanted to let some of the stuff kind of breathe a little bit and settle a little bit. So the New York Islanders get Varlamov, and he is tasked with the job of replacing Lehner. Now, Lehner, and I've pointed this out before, and I talked about it in the Lehner video yesterday. Lehner being up for a Vezina this year meant that was a really important signing for Chicago. Great comeback story for a guy who has had one bad statistical year out of four. He gets a one-year deal with Chicago, and depending on who you asked, either he rebuffed the Islanders' offer of 2 years, or the Islanders walked away from him. At this point, it's all semantics. So let's just say the Islanders walked away from him. We'll do that in this video. We'll say, all right, Lehner's right. They walked away from him. So why would you walk away from Lehner in favor of Varlamov? Well, looking at the stats, this past season, he was 20-19-9. So almost 500. Remember that 9 is overtime and shootout losses. He had a 909 save percentage, 2.87 goals against average, 2 shutouts. Really, honestly, Varlamov didn't have a great year, which is why Grubauer stole his job, and Grubauer is the starter in Colorado now. And why Varlamov took a pay cut to go to the New York Islanders off the $5.9 million he would be making as the Colorado Avalanche starter. Now, the year before, he played 51 games, had a 24-16-6 record, 2.68 goals against, 920 save percentage, but playoff time he was injured. So Jonathan Bernier and then Andrew Hammond came out of nowhere, right? So every now and then Hammond makes the odd miraculous appearance at the NHL level, and we get all excited, and I've seen that too many times from Hammond, so I don't get excited for that anymore the way I did. But that being said, we're discussing Varlamov and the fact that Varlamov was hurt in the playoffs. Varlamov hasn't played a game in the playoffs since 2014. That year, he played all 7 games for Colorado in the first round. He had a 913 save percentage. Of course, he burst onto the scene with Washington back in 2009 when he had to step in, played 13 games, had a 7-6 record, had 2 shutouts, 918 save percentage, 2.53 goals against average that year. So Varlamov, if you look at that, you can say, well, he's got a track record as a decent playoff performer. If you look at it from the more cynical point of view, he hasn't played in the playoffs in 5 years. His numbers, his overall numbers, well, 2016-2017, remember the year Colorado would love to forget. He went 6-17, had an 898 save percentage. It was a miserable year for him when he was healthy, which wasn't often enough. The year before, 57 games played, 914 save percentage. So I would say of the last 4 seasons that Varlamov's played, he's had 2 that have statistically been down years, 2 that have been strong years, and he has dealt with injuries on a regular basis. Now, the Islanders as well, you have Greiss, right? And Greiss had a bounce-back year from a miserable year the year before. Now, what Lou Lamoriello may be looking at is, hey, we worked magic with Lehner, we worked magic as well with Greiss, we can do it with Varlamov. He may have seen a lot of Varlamov playing in the East when he was with Washington for those few years, or maybe he just pays attention, and Lou does seem like the kind of general manager that pays attention to what's going on around the National Hockey League. This is probably his goaltender. Varlamov is probably the one that he wanted when he realized he wasn't getting Bobrovsky. It's a downgrade from Bobrovsky. I think we can all agree to that when you look at the Vezinas Bobrovsky's had and the overall stats he's had over the last 5 years. And I will say this for people who think that maybe Lehner was a flash in the pan. The one thing that I will say, okay, I'll grant that to you. It feels like Varlamov is more of a pure starter than Lehner would have been. Lehner's gets that feeling of being a 1A, meaning Varlamov may be a guy who can play more games. The problem is the most games he's played in the last 3 years is 51, because he does tend to get hurt, and this year he did end up being the backup. There's a risk in this. The Islanders had, and I'm going to refer back to what Vegas had with the Misfits, and this whole culture of where the rejects We're going to prove ourselves. The Islanders kind of had that on some level this year, and Lehner played all year like he had something to prove. Maybe Lou looks at Semyon Varlamov, talked to his agent and said, your guy has something to prove. He can come here and do it. Maybe he believes in Barry Trotz so much that he thinks, yeah, Lehner had a great year because of the system we have with the Islanders. Maybe that's what it is. But either way, the Islanders are now on the hook for 4 years at $20 million in total, $5 million a year, for a goaltender who last time we saw him was the backup to Grubauer in Colorado. I'm surprised at the cap hit. I think it's kind of high considering how he was going into the free agent period. But there weren't a lot of top-notch goaltenders that were available that got to move, especially ones that still have, at least I would say over this 4-year contract, he could still be in his prime and playing really well. But what level is that going to be at? And that's the question that I have at this stage. And so I'm not gonna say it's a bad move, because last summer we were talking about Lehner and Greiss being one of the worst tandems in the league, and then in the season that followed, we saw that the Islanders had a plan, and Greiss bounced back, and Lehner was fantastic. So maybe it works again. So if you're an Islanders fan, do you believe in this Islanders magic with Varlamov? Would you have rather kept Lehner for a longer period of time? And how do you feel now coming through free agency and seeing Varlamov come in as a replacement? Again, for me, I'm reserving judgment only because Lou Lamoriello seems to have a way with goaltenders. But I'd be interested to know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon.